What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another Lions video. Now, the Detroit Lions have seen a ton of change over this offseason, whether it be in the front office, at the quarterback position, at the wide receiver position, or really anywhere you want to look throughout the franchise. Change can be seen from last season to now. However, one of the big changes that happened this offseason, one of the big free agent signings that I think is going very unnoticed and very underrated, is the signing of former Houston Texan and former Detroit Lion Darren Fells. Now, Darren Fells is a guy that was signed late in the free agency process. He was signed a couple days after the conclusion of the NFL draft, and is a guy that went widely unnoticed, a guy that Lions fans aren't talking about, a guy that a lot of NFL fans and a lot of NFL media are not taking great notice in. However, Darren Fells is a guy that is now on the Detroit Lions roster that I think is going to be a big playmaker and is going to have a huge impact for this Lions team come the NFL season. Now, in today's video, I want to talk about Darren Fells. I want to talk about this underrated and forgotten free agent, this guy that is likely going to be our tight end to a guy that is likely going to be a red zone monster for the Detroit Lions, and a guy that is not only going to produce for himself, but a guy that is going to produce and help everybody else on the Detroit Lions offense look that much more efficient and that much better. Now, before we get into talking about Darren Fells, the forgotten free agent, if you're new to the channel and you're enjoying the content, please consider liking the videos and subscribing to the channel. It takes just 2 seconds out of you to do so. It's quick, it's free, and it's easy. So if you can do that, take those 2 seconds to like and subscribe. I'd be greatly appreciative for it. With all that being said, without any further ado, let's get right into talking about Darren Fells, the underrated free agent that may just end up being one of the most dangerous weapons in this Lions offense.
So we're getting Anthony Ryder from South Lyon, Michigan, recently selected as the Lions 2020 Fan of the Year. He has a passion about sports broadcasting.
With the 112th selection in the 2021 NFL Draft, the Detroit Lions select Amon-Ra St. Brown, wide receiver, USC. One pride, baby! Yeah!
Now, as I said, Darren Fells spent his last 2 seasons as a member of the Houston Texans organization, where in the past 2 seasons he has totaled over 11 receiving touchdowns. Now, the 6'7", 270-pound tight end has been a huge playmaker and a huge red zone weapon for Deshaun Watson over the past 2 seasons, catching 11 passing touchdowns from Deshaun Watson over the past 2 seasons, including a 7-touchdown season in 2019. Now, Darren Fells, I think, can be a really big weapon for this Detroit Lions offense, and a guy that is going widely underrated and a guy that is going widely underappreciated. Darren Fells has been a very good red zone tight end for a majority of his career. As I said, standing at 6'7", 270 pounds, Darren Fells is going to outsize and outmuscle a majority of cornerbacks, safeties, or linebackers that he goes up against in the red zone. He's fast enough to get around linebackers and safeties, and he's also big enough to outmuscle, outjump, and box out not only cornerbacks, but a majority of other positions as well. You're not going to find too many defenders in either the linebacking core or the safety position that are 6'7" plus over 270 pounds that have the size and speed and jumping ability that you're going to see in Darren Fells. Now, Darren Fells last year for the Houston Texans, although the Houston Texans were not a fantastic team, Darren Fells did play very well. Had a couple receiving touchdowns, had a couple 100 yards here and there. However, Darren Fells a season ago, when targeted by Deshaun Watson, gave Deshaun Watson a 150.6 QBR when targeted. Now, of course, this does mean when in the times that Darren Fells was targeted, which admittedly was far and few between, I believe only had 28 targets on the entire season, but in those 28 targets, Deshaun Watson averaged a 150.6 QBR. Now, to compare that to the Detroit Lions' best player a season ago, Kenny Golladay, when Kenny Golladay was targeted, he only had a QBR percentage of 119. Now, to put those numbers into perspective, a perfect passer rating on a game or a perfect passer rating on a play is 158.3, and Darren Fells was a guy that, when targeted, had Deshaun Watson pretty close to that perfect passing percentage. I believe he only had, I think, 6 or 7 missed passes, 6 or 7 targets that were not caught, and Darren Fells did not drop a single pass a season ago. On his 28 targets, Darren Fells did not drop a single pass, whether it be in the red zone, whether it be between the 20s, or anywhere else on the field. Darren Fells had very solid hands and was a a really reliable weapon and safety blanket for Deshaun Watson a season ago, as Deshaun Watson continued to play at his MVP pace and continue to play like a top 5 quarterback in the NFL. Darren Fells is not going to do a lot for the Detroit Lions between the 20s, right? In 2019, he only had 341 receiving yards. In a season ago, in 2020, only had 312 receiving yards total. However, that's not where the value of Darren Fells comes from. That is not where the value of a player like Darren Fells is felt. His presence, his presence and his skill set are more useful in the red zone, right? As I said, 6'7", 270 pounds. He's one of the biggest players on the field at any given point, and there's not too many guys that are going to beat Darren Fells in a jump ball. There are not too many guys that are going to get through his 6'7", 270 pound frame to break up the football. Not to mention, Darren Fells has very long arms, so not only does Darren Fells have the muscle and the strength and the size to box people out, but even if it's a longer cornerback with longer arms, that guy's not going to be able to get around or get to the football because Darren Fells has such long arms, he has such good hands that he's going to catch the football 9 times out of 10, especially in the red zone. If you're targeting Darren Fells, he's going to be a guy that more times than not is going to come down in the end zone and come down to the red zone with a touchdown, and he's only going to help the Lions' red zone percentage increase in 2021. Last year the Detroit Lions actually had a very good red zone percentage. They had a 66% efficiency rate in the red zone, meaning that of their 53 attempts in the red zone, 35 times they came away with touchdowns. That ranked 9th in the NFL a season ago, and usually when you have a top 10 red zone offense, you are a very successful NFL franchise. Now, of course, that did not happen for the Detroit Lions. They had far more issues to deal with. They had far less impressive statistics to go with that high red zone efficiency rate, but Darren Fells is only going to help that red zone efficiency go up. He's only going to help the Detroit Lions offense score more touchdowns, be more efficient in the red zone, and really make everybody else around him a better player. We talked about Darren Fells, we talked about what he does well, we talked about his skill set, but Darren Fells is not going to be a guy that just helps himself. Darren Fells is a guy that is in the red zone, a red zone monster, a guy that only eats and only vultures touchdowns from people. He's going to get a lot of attention in the red zone, right? With that size, with his box out ability, and with his production over the past 2 seasons, he is going to be a guy that NFL defenses are going to have to focus on in the red zone. That is going to leave a guy like 6'4" Tyrell Williams to have one-on-one on the boundary. Maybe give a guy like TJ Hockenson, who's already a very good red zone tight end, going to help TJ Hockenson get more open with single coverage. And when the NFL defenses are concerned with Tyrell Williams at 6'4", when they're concerned with Darren Fells at 6'7", when they're concerned with TJ Hockenson on the boundary, then they can't stack the box, and that is when you hand it off to Jamal Williams. That's when you hand it off to DeAndre Swift. That's when you hand it off to Jermar Jefferson. You let that running back and that offensive line go to work on a 4 or a 5-man front. Maybe you put a fullback in there and you just go to work running it up the middle, playing power smash mouth football, and whatever the defense does in the red zone, it's going to be the wrong choice, because if they stack the box to stop Jamal Williams, you're going to have a size mismatch in the red zone with a 6'7" tight end or TJ Hockenson for an easy, quick play, quick snap and throw touchdown, or you're going to double your 6'7" tight end and they're going to double TJ Hockenson, leaving only 5, maybe even a 4-man front on the line of scrimmage. And at that point, your front 5 on the offensive line being Taylor Decker and Jonah Jackson, especially Frank Ragnow and Penei Sewell, with Big V being a better run blocker than anything else, you're going to have that group of 5 just mauling up the middle for a good 5-6 yards before your running back is even touched. And we know that Jamal Williams, we know that DeAndre Swift, and we know that Jermar Jefferson are all players that are going to fall forward into the red zone. So with that being the case, this signing, I think, is very underappreciated by Brad Holmes. This is a signing for a tight end and a guy that is going to only make everybody else on the roster better. He's going to make everybody else in the red zone a better football player, and it's going to help the Detroit Lions be one of the most efficient red zone offenses in the NFL. As I said, last year they ranked 9th in the NFL in red zone efficiency. Darren Fells is going to take that to top 5. Darren Fells is only going to make this team better in the red zone. Darren Fells is only going to make this team's efficiency that much better. And when the Lions are scoring more touchdowns than field goals, when the Detroit Lions can continue those long drives, when they can actually cash in on those long drives and score touchdowns instead of field goals, when they get to a top 5 red zone offense in the NFL, that is going to make them a very difficult team to beat. When you are a football team that consistently turns, drives that would be field goals into touchdowns, when you're an NFL team that scores more touchdowns in the red zone than field goals, you are a team that is very difficult to stop. You are a team that is very difficult to defeat. And with this addition of Darren Fells, with the way that this Lions offense is constructed, they are built to be successful in the red zone. They are built to play power, smash mouth football in short yardage situations where you're going to have a lot of mismatches on the outside, whether it be from a size or a speed advantage. And then when the defense commits to those players, when the defense commits to that 6'7" weapon, when they commit to that Pro Bowl tight end in T.J. Hockenson, when they commit to that 6'4" jump ball wide receiver in Tyrell Williams, that's when you have your bowling ball of Jamal Williams run the rock for 5-6 yards for a touchdown. That's when you have DeAndre Swift slash and gash for a good 7-yard touchdown. And that's when you have Jamar Jefferson pound the rock in a couple times. And I think that Darren Fells is going to be a big part of this team, whether he's getting the football or not. I think that Darren Fells, whether he's getting all the spotlight, whether he's getting the actual receiving touchdowns and getting the numbers on his stat sheet, or he's just being a big distraction in the red zone so that TJ and DeAndre and Jamal Williams and Tyrell Williams can all get their own feast, Darren Fells, I think, is going to be one of the most important players and one of the most beneficial players in the offseason. And for a guy that was signed late in the free agency period, for a guy that was signed late into free agency after the NFL draft, after all the exciting rookies, after even all the exciting UDFAs, and especially after all the intriguing free agents, Darren Fells is a true sleeper free agent. Darren Fells is truly the forgotten guy on this offense, and yet come week one, come every time the Lions get into the red zone, you're going to see number 87 step onto the field, this big 6'7", 270-pound tight end, and he's going to get all the attention in the world while the rest of this Lions offense eats. Now, with all that being said, that is all for you guys today. Again, I wanted to talk about Darren Fells. I wanted to talk about a guy that is not being appreciated, that is not being talked about, but at the end of the day, may end up being one of the most important pieces on this entire Lions roster. Now, with all that being said, that is all for you guys today. Thank you all so much for watching. Let me know what you guys think about Darren Fells down in the comments below. Let me know how many receiving touchdowns you think he will have by the end of the 2021 season. I'd be very curious to see what you guys think about it and what you think about the player and his potential. But with all that being said, that is all for you guys today. Thank you all so much for watching, and until next time, and as always, go Lions!